Hi, welcome to Beyond the Money podcast. This is Jackie Campbell, and I am really excited to introduce our guest to you today, Amy Bruske. Just kind of like the beer, right, Amy?
That's
um,
right.
and she's an author. She's got a lifelong obsession with just trying to help everyone be the very best that they can be. You've got several new books out. You're one of the co-founders, co-authors of some books. So I just can't wait to just kind of dive right into that. Working with small businesses, being a small business, especially a family-owned business. I've just really enjoyed following your work and using Kolbe through my years of experience. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here today.
So tell me a little bit about how about we start with your newest book?
Okay, great. Yeah. David Colby and I, so going back to family business, since we're talking about family business, we are too. He is my stepbrother. We are owners in the business Kolbe Corp, and we can talk about that more later if you want, how we got here. But we wrote a book recently called Do More, More Naturally. And the focus of the book is making sure that we have a good balance between striving for some big goals and thinking about what do you really want to do to make a difference in your life? What matters to you most? But there's this missing ingredient, which is doing those things in a way that is most natural for you. If you can figure out how you uniquely execute, solve problems, make decisions, and then marry that to these big goals, it will be so much more effortless. We find a lot of times people are trying to achieve big things with one hand tied behind their back. So we want to help people discover their strengths and then figure out how to put that into play.
And that's kind of where that just comes naturally off of Colby. I mean, we've all done it, right? If you have a career, start a business, have children, married with children is kind of our joke around here, or have family working in your business. It's sometimes it's really like dragging, some luggage along with you. And I think what really I enjoyed about your newest book, The Do More Naturally, is it's for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner. It's just doesn't matter what stage you are in your life, even if you're retired or about to transition into life, or even someone who's younger. I mean, what a great gift to be able to figure out some of your unique abilities and how you operate naturally, and then work around those that are around you because we don't all think the same. We don't all behave the same way.
Right. And you really said it, what makes us passionate about this. I really don't want to talk to anyone else in their 50s and 60s who say, if I would have discovered this earlier, I would have made different decisions. So I would love to start as early as possible. It really is for everyone to help figure out what is your path. And it starts with getting clarity. If you can get some clarity on who you really are, all those other decisions become easier. It becomes a little easier to say no to some stuff because we're all juggling way too much. There is so much that we want to accomplish. And so everyone tells you to say no, but what are the things you should really be saying no to? And that is should be really based on how you most naturally operate versus working against that strength. So yeah, we're on a mission to change lives and have people hear this earlier and earlier.
I love that. With my nieces and nephew that, they're in college and the things I wish I knew at 20. And I think when I was growing up, it was always, improve the things that you're not good at instead of now it's like just do more of what you're naturally good at. So I love that. And your quest is really about helping driven people. That's another thing that I think a lot of people, some people know that they're driven and are high achievers, but some just have no idea that that's why they want to do more and they raise the bar higher. So I find that really interesting these days, that that's even still a question for so many.
Well, the high achievers are the most at risk because they're at risk for burnout because they will keep taking on more. So, if we don't have the balance between the two, it's really a challenge. If there's too much focus on doing more, with nothing, not no focus on your strengths, that's a problem. Honestly, what's really interesting is when founders of businesses and people that retire all of a sudden have freedom to be themselves and they can use their strengths. Sometimes that goes too far the other way too, and they have all this pent up, misdirected energy and no purpose or big goals to really focus that on. So we all have to be responsible for looking at both sides of that. I find a lot of founders of companies have a hard time once they're handing over the reins for exactly that reason, is the do more part all of a sudden isn't clear to them.
Right. Yeah. That's where, clarity and confidence and, a strategic coach. I know Kolbe Corporation works directly with strategic coach, and I've been a coach member for many years, slow learner, as Dan Sullivan says. But, finding out my Kolbe, my unique ability, and, my Kolbe is a 6'5", 5'4", so that means I can do a lot of different things and can be good at all of them. So that to me is, um, while it's supposedly a great Colby, and a gift. I also feel like I get, a little distracted sometimes because I can do all those different things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Colby, what that means, and what the Colby A and all of those studies even mean?
Sure. Okay. So the Kolbe Index is our flagship assessment, but it really is based on the three different parts of the mind. So we all know about the cognitive part of the mind, which is thinking, right? Thinking, your experience, your knowledge, your intelligence. We've all been tested on that our entire lives. We know where that fits in. Then there's a second part of the mind that is affective, which is really your motivation, your values, your personality type. So, for those of you that have taken personality tests like Myers-Briggs or DISC or Predictive Index or Clifton Strengths, Print, any of those, they fall under that personality bucket. Well, there's this third part of the mind that Plato and Aristotle and ancient philosophers wrote about. Everyone agrees there are three dimensions, but no one has really figured out how to measure it. So that's the cognitive part of the mind or the doing part. So think of it again as the three parts: thinking, feeling, doing. So we uniquely focus on the doing piece. And we are focused on using an assessment, which is 36 questions, most least. And you just pick how would you most solve a problem? How would you least likely solve a problem if completely free to be yourself? So that's the caveat. You're capable of solving problems in all of the ways that we're looking at, but what does true freedom to be yourself look like? Because if you have that, you're in the zone. You're in, people use the word flow or in the zone. Think about the kinds of activities you do where hours go by and you can't believe how quickly time has gone because it's such a great fit. Well, there really needs to be a fit in all three parts of the mind. And so at Colby, the A measures what do you do with information? What do you do with structure? How do you most naturally handle risk and uncertainty? And then what do you do with the physical space? So those are really kind of the four modes that we look at. And we all fall on a continuum in all four of these. So think about the data. I'll just use one example. Data, yes, you can naturally be very detailed or give the bottom line summary or something in between, but where do you really naturally fall? And you probably know yourself because that's something as a kid, either you asked a million questions and you frustrated the teacher and you tend to be correcting small errors and those kinds of things, or you're someone that simplifies and bottom lines things. That piece of information alone helps people on a daily basis figure out what tasks are going to be most frustrating for them and what is really aligned with what they do. And then, most importantly, surround yourself with the people that fill out your team that do the things that you don't do most naturally. So that's kind of what the A is getting at. How do you execute, solve problems, make decisions naturally?
And just by going through this for years, and I had my children and my husband Scott, and of course everybody that works at Campbell Company, we all do. That's part of our onboarding is the Colby and the print, so we get an idea of where they're at because for our wealth management division, I mean you need to be aware of facts, right? You need to be mindful. That's an important part of it. And the follow through is extremely important. And certainly we can't all be quick starts, meaning we can't all just, make
Innovate.
decisions without
Yeah.
finding the facts. And, we don't do construction here. So that's kind of helpful. And we don't have to do graphs and charts. So, we don't have to have so much of that fourth one with our team, but it certainly does make a difference for our CPAs, our enrolled agents, our accountants. I mean, we definitely need to see that pattern that they're going to be high fact finders and high follow throughs. So I just love how it all works together when you truly understand it. And I mean, I'm not Colby trained, but I feel like I have a lot of experience and um, so being a mediator, let me just ask you that. My husband is a high fact finder, so he works with us in the business. He is an 8-8.
Mhm.
So he's an 8'8", and I'm a 6'5", 5'4". I forget his last two numbers. I think it's a 2'3", but
Okay.
so what are some ways that, if somebody has a different Colby, that they can learn to work together, not to frustrate each other? Because I'm very bottom line,
Yeah.
and he wants the facts, the details.
Right. Okay. So what I love about your Colby result is on a scale of 1 to 10, all of those modes are a scale of 1 to 10, and your numbers are all in kind of that middle range, the 6, 5, 5, 4. That means that you so naturally switch between the ends of the continuum. You're just the ideal team player naturally because you will accommodate whatever's being initiated or pushed back against. And there's only 10% of the population, by the way, with that result. People ask me all the time, where can I find one of these facilitator mediator people to hire? Because I need them on my team. So you're kind of the glue that holds everyone together. Now, what your husband is fabulous at just naturally is strategic planning, right? He is going to take one topic that he cares about. So it's got to be something you care enough about, and he's going to go deep, right? His aid and fact finder has a need to be a specialist and really be precise and detailed. And you'll accommodate that to a certain point with your 6, but you much quicker move on and say, all right, let's pick one of these things and move on. You actually make a great team because cloning is great where you've got a position of a bunch of high performers where you've seen there's a certain type of pattern that really works well in this job. But for most of us that have to collaborate, we want to have those differences. So here's a couple things to think about. The first thing is you're never going to be able to change that person. So all of you at home who say, my kid drives me crazy because they're not naturally organized, or my spouse doesn't know how to load the dishwasher, right? Those that's a silly example, but this natural way you have of taking action isn't changing. So the first thing is we just need to figure out how to make sure that we allow that person the freedom to be themselves. And when should you collaborate and when should you work independently? So I find that people force way too much decision making with groups of people and everyone together. And so we have to be strategic about who should be doing what. When do we need to come together to share information, and when should we split up and work independently toward shared goals so you don't drive each other nuts? So I'll give you another example. David Kolbe and I, he's an 8 in Fact Finder. I'm a 3. We're on opposite ends of the continuum. He knows when my eyes glaze over, it's time to move on. And I will say, can I ask you 3 of the most important points in this, or whatever it might be. But there are times when I absolutely have to know I need to justify some information to him for him to feel comfortable to move on. So, you really can be this fabulous team. You're so accommodating to where he is. Now, he really does facts and then plans. He knows how to organize and find the data he's looking for. Um, you're very accommodating in change. So the way you're operating is focusing on what's the market doing? What's our industry doing? How can I keep up with these changes? He naturally stabilizes. He's a natural, hey, let's not fix what's not broken. And we need that. We need all the stabilizers. All of these results, by the way, everyone, are really positive. Um, so that's where you do have a few differences. You might drive each other a little bit nuts in him, where you're like, let's just try it out. Let's jump in and do it. And he's not ready because he doesn't have all the justification. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a restorer, and I'm always looking to change things. And, so I'm very flexible, nimble, and yeah, he's very, you know, why do we need to do that?
That's right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't, we can't keep, I heard this recently. It was, making batter, and maybe it was you that even said that. It was about, just because you come up with an idea doesn't mean that I'm ready to bake the cake. It's just, I'm just trying out different batters, or I'm just in the preparation stage,
That's right. Yeah, way
verbalizing.
too many ideas. It's fascinating because we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they do tend to be people in a lot of cases, not always, but who are just experimenting all the time. And there's no end to their ideas. And if they didn't have stabilizers on their team to say, let me protect these things that are working, it's chaos. We've seen teams absolutely fail when everyone is exactly the same as that. So sounds really fun, but the reality is that's not a lasting, that's not a winning combination long term. Yeah,
Exactly, but you do need someone to kind of help you put things in a sandbox every now and then, and not be quick starts on every single thing. So I'm reminded often about that. So because I do have a pattern of having a lot of the first numbers being higher on their
right.
Kolbe. So
Jackie, did you say you guys do work together? Are you in the business together?
we do, yeah, yeah. He's
Okay.
my husband. I've got two other business partners, and some of their family members work with us as well. So it's been interesting seeing how, all these things work out, and but figuring out, not just who each other are as you know them personally and emotions and all those things, but it's how you naturally do things
Right.
has been really, really helpful. So, but yeah,
That's
it has
good.
its struggle for sure.
Well, it's interesting because a previous book that I wrote with Kathy Kolbe, who's actually the founder of Kolbe Corp. So she is my stepmother. We're going into our 50th year this year. So it's so exciting. That's how long ago she
Congratulations.
started the company. So really she is the founder, and David and I are taking this business now to the next level. And she is still working on concepts, and she still comes in and trains our people, but she is freed up and doesn't have to run the day to day. But when we wrote a book called Business is Business, it was kind of a guidebook for family businesses. So any of you that do work with family members, um, just remember that you can't be striving at all times, right? So when I say this is how you naturally solve problems and get things done, the one thing that we put in the book that I think people have told me has helped them the most is at home you can vent about work. So just as you would to a spouse if you didn't work together, you can say, "Oh, this happened," or "I talked to this client, this was frustrating," but don't solve problems together on the business at home. And that's just kind of a boundary. Otherwise, you're exhausted, you're depleted because you're doing nothing but solving problems all the time. It's not don't talk work at home, it's don't actually get to the point of action and solving problems, right? You have to have some downtime too.
Yeah, I remember, and that's going to be a great Christmas gift for me because my daughter works with us as well. And so I know a few Christmas gifts already on the list, the business is business. So thanks for reminding me about that. I just remember it may have been your mom along the way, or maybe you that I've heard somewhere. But it was, talking about handing off the responsibility of ordering pizza for
Oh
the
yeah,
staff.
I lived that story.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's like being able to make decisions and trust in your collaborator or your business partner or your teammate, your coworker, and really being able to let go of the vine, so to speak. So, but I try to always remember, okay, am I trying to make select pizza, or what are we doing here? Is this something that's really going to change the impact and the direction of our company?
Oh, that's great. Love it.
So, but. One of the things that in the do more naturally, I had made a note of the good advice gone bad. So, what do you mean by that phrase, good advice gone bad?
So I think we can all relate to some of the advice that we've grown up with. And by the way, it's all well-meaning. Either your parents or your teachers, or you had a fabulous early mentor in your career, whatever it might be. So a boss along the way, where there were certain ways to get things done that made you successful. So I grew up with anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that is absolutely terrible advice when it comes to how much we all have to get done and the fact that you have this amount of mental energy that is finite. You really do have to pick and choose what's worth your best, your highest and best use of your talents, and what just needs to get checked off the list, right? But I feel so guilty still. It's this underlying thing where it's sitting there as far as, oh no, I need to do it with perfection, or I need to do it to the 10th, the nth degree. So some people have been told they need to be more spontaneous. A bunch of people every single year tell themselves, I'm going to be more organized this year. There
Mm,
are some people that just don't naturally traditionally organize. You're adaptable, and that actually is your superpower. And so is there advice that's still hanging around your head that really is terrible advice for you because it doesn't align with your strengths? That's what we call good advice gone bad. So in general, it's fine advice. It just doesn't work for everyone. So, as I was saying, that clarity about who you are allows you to kind of dismiss some of the things that maybe don't work for you and really embrace the stuff that's going to work for you.
So
Yeah.
is clarity one of the three C's?
Yeah. So the three C's in the book, here's what we found is we're really experts in this more naturally piece, right? The do more piece, you got to figure out what matters to you most. What are those big goals? But we can help you with the more naturally piece. And the people who tell us that they love their work and it feels effortless and days fly by have mastered these three C's. So the first C is clarity, which I've already kind of mentioned. That is get really clear on who you are and what your strengths are. And that gets really hard for some of you that are so skilled and talented at so many different things. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. So you've got to be able to back up and say, okay, I really want to do this and I'm really good at it. But is it that kind of thing where I'm fully in the zone and it just comes natural? So clarity's first. Second is commitment. And that is once you know what your strengths are, making really good decisions every single day about what deserves your best efforts. And so there's a lot of low level decisions every single day that you're making that might be stealing some of that energy. So they're really, psychologists talk about something really interesting called decision fatigue. And it's
Mhm.
all those little, what am I going to wear today? You go home at the end of the day and it's what are we going to eat for dinner? I mean, I think all of you can relate to the, oh my gosh, I could not make one more decision about what we eat. I don't even have it in me, right? So
Right.
it really is about commitment is committing fully, but to the things that really deserve your best effort. So it's not don't commit to anything. It really is about being strategic. And then the last C is collaboration because no one can do it alone. So you have to decide sometimes, do you need a clone of yourself or do you need a complement? And that's kind of an interesting mindset. There are times when I need to be talking to people who really have a similar strength to mine. So when I want to brainstorm a really innovative, different idea for the business, I'll go to other people who naturally do that and I'll say, we have 10 minutes. Let's see what we can come up with. And I purposely don't include people who are different than that, that I might frustrate or that are going to go, but wait, and ask me a question and take me out of the flow, right?
Right.
Then there's other times when I absolutely need a complement of myself. I need someone with a completely opposite strengths who love to do the things and who just are so much better at it and thrive on doing the things that I don't do. So think about the people in your life and the relationships. When do you need a clone? When do you need a complement?
Mhm.
And who should you be collaborating with when?
I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. When you just want to get things out, it would make sense not to talk to a fact finder because they're gonna interrupt your out loud thinking,
That's right.
right?
Right.
So that's great. I am looking forward. I've read the first chapter of that book, so I am really looking forward to reading the rest of that. Um, and do you have that on audiobooks as well?
We do. It's on Audible. Yeah. So paperback, hard copy, Kindle, and then the Audible. And the Audible, David Colby ended up doing the whole Audible, so, which was great for me because I said, okay, I wrote most of the book. You go do the audio now.
Oh, I love it. I
So,
love it
yeah.
when you collaborate and use some of your best strengths for that. And what do you hope that, I guess, everyone in general, kind of no matter what age you're at, where you're at on the timeline of life, or if you're a business owner or not, what are you hoping that the readers will get when they're reading this? Their instinctive instincts, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Their strengths,
Right.
instinctive strengths.
I think the number one thing is that it doesn't have to be that hard. I think we are taught that like hard work really has to be painful and anything we're doing is worth an effort. Absolutely, that is true. So set your bar really, really high, but that there is this missing piece to doing it in a way where you're just going to have more joy and it's just going to feel more effortless. And so discovering this, it's worth the time because it will completely change the way you see things. You'll stop trying to change yourself or feel guilty about some of the things that you keep procrastinating, and it will just become easier to do the things that matter to you most.
You're right. When there's stress, I can clean my house like nothing, right? Because I can do that. I know I can clean the dirt, control the dirt. But you're right. And some things you just you procrastinate, and that's typically something that you're not wanting to do or don't enjoy doing. And
Yeah,
it's just like entrepreneurs, they don't really ever retire. They will always have that second act, or
right.
consulting, or collaborating, writing books, doing podcasts. They'll always have something to keep them engaged and enjoying what they do and like to do
That's right.
most. So.
That's right. A sense of purpose is just so critical, whatever it is. And we know that purpose just keeps changing over our lifetime. And it doesn't have to be purpose with this huge capital P that I'm ending world hunger, and that is a fabulous goal. But your purpose can be that I want to be the best parent that I can be, or as a grandparent, I'm doing things, or I do want more time to read or do volunteer work, whatever it is that brings you joy, just keep searching for whatever that is and then do it in a way that fits you. Don't volunteer for stuff that does not meet your strengths. People do that all the time.
We do, and that's part of that. I guess good advice from many years ago is always help others. The blanket statements, right? Do your
That's right.
best at everything you do. Anything I think what you said was anything that you're doing is worth doing well.
That's right.
Whatever those blanket statements are, those are probably not good words of advice for somebody like me who's going to take on everything. So
Mhm.
I love that. So if we were talking to someone now, what action steps or actionable steps would you have for someone that is a small business owner that works with their family member? What would be some recommended steps for them?
Well, I mean, take some time and go through the process of getting to know each other in a totally different way. So let me give you one key question that you guys can all, and anyone, no matter who the team member is, can do this. So a process of figuring out your strengths is telling other people, giving them the operating manual for working with you, right? So go around the room at your next meeting and say, what's one tip for working with me? That alone is going to give you either the person's biggest pet peeve, or what to expect out of them, or whatever it might be. So get to know yourself more. Pay attention to when you're in the zone. Pay attention to when you're in flow versus what really it frustrates you. Maybe ask yourself what triggers me, but then share that information, right? So questions like, I do my best work when, or when I'm stressed, I need, is a really key question that you can share with each other. We did that for the first time after 20 years of David and I had been working together. And he said something that I would not have expected. So do not assume you know the answer to these questions. But this is all a part of helping you first discover your strengths. Please, feel free to take the Kolbe Index. You guys can go to kolbe.com, and it's Kolbe spelled Kolbe, B as in boy, kolbe.com. The assessment's only $55. It's going to give you 18 pages of information about your fabulous strengths that you can share with other people. But even if you didn't do the Kolbe assessment, questions like these and conversations like these are going to help you know what to expect out of each other and be better teammates. That's where I start getting the clarity and then giving people that information.
I love it. I'm a big fan of Colby, and thank you for pointing out how to spell that. I'll make sure and have that in the link below. But the Colby, along with the print, and just having a different platform to be able to build communication with your teammates and especially your partners, business partners, those that you collaborate with, and just learning how to communicate. I mean, I think that's a
Right.
really, really big key. And gosh, if we could just teach the next generation, how to do this at much younger age, they're just going to have such an advantage. And there's so much information out there. It's what do you really go to and what do you really rely on? So,
That's right.
but I'm a big fan of doing the Colby for anyone. I recommend it all the time to other business owners that we work with, and just as part of their onboarding. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time, and wish you so much continued success with the Colby Corporation and your books. Your newest book, Do More Naturally. Can't wait to read that, and I already have my stocking stuffers with your other book, Business is Business.
That's fabulous. Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun.
Thank you, Kathy. You take care.